All right, so today we're going to dive into Simon Sinek's The Infinite Game. It's a book that flips the whole idea of winning in business on its head. And trust me, it's one of those ideas that once you really get it, you start seeing it absolutely everywhere. It all kicks off with this one pretty bold statement. Right out of the gate, Sinek hits us with this. I mean, think about it. Most of us are taught that business is all about winning, right? Being number one, crushing the competition. But what if that's the completely wrong way to look at it? What if treating business like a game you can win is exactly why so many companies, well, don't last? To really understand this, Sinek takes us to a totally different arena. So let's go back to the Vietnam War for a second. During the Tet Offensive, if you just look at the numbers, the U.S. military was incredibly successful. I mean, they fought off every single attack. And just look at that casualty ratio. It's absolutely staggering. Over 35-1 in America's favor. And this, right here, is the big question. If you were just keeping score, America was winning, big time. So why did support for the war just collapse back home? Why did the United States, with all its power and resources, eventually just leave? Well, the answer comes down to the kind of game each side thought they were playing. Sinek gets this idea from a philosopher named James P. Carse, and it's brilliant. There are basically two kinds of games. You've got finite games, like, say, football. You know the players, the rules are fixed, and there's a clear end where somebody wins. But then there are infinite games. Think about things like a marriage or a friendship or, business. And this is the light bulb moment. America was playing a finite game. They were there to win battles, to score points, to declare victory, and go home. But North Vietnam, they were playing an infinite game. They were fighting for their freedom, for their very existence. Their goal wasn't to win. It was just to outlast the opponent, to keep the game going. And that's the thing about an infinite game. There are no winners. There are only those who are still left on the field. Okay, Section 1, the finite mindset trap. This is the big problem Sinek sees in the business world, and it explains so much. You can see this trap perfectly in the classic rivalry between Microsoft and Apple. Sinek went to conferences for both companies. At the Microsoft event, almost every single presentation was about how they were going to beat Apple. They were obsessed with their competition. But at the Apple event, it was a totally different world. 100% of the focus was on how they could empower teachers and help students learn. They weren't obsessed with a rival. They were obsessed with their cause. And this difference in mindset was just everywhere. Sinek tells this great story where he's sharing a ride with a top Apple executive. He decides to stir the pot a little bit and says, Microsoft's new Zune player is so much better than your iPod. The executive's response is just perfect. No defensiveness, no panic. He wasn't worried at all because he knew they weren't even playing the same game. And that's where the magic happens. See, Apple wasn't focused on what the competition was doing next. They were focused on advancing their own mission. So while Microsoft was heads down trying to build a better iPod, Apple was already working on the thing that would make the iPod, the Zune, and the whole category of MP3 players basically obsolete, the iPhone. And, this kind of finite thinking has a very real and very high cost. Just think about this. Back in the 1950s, the average lifespan of a company on the S&P 500 was about 61 years. Today, it's less than 18. Sinek's argument is that this isn't just about technology changing faster. It's because way too many leaders are playing to win the next quarter instead of playing to last for the next generation. So, Section 2, adopting an infinite mindset. Okay, so if thinking finite is the problem, what's the solution? How do you actually do this? Well, Sinek says it really comes down to putting 5 essential practices into place. So here they are, Sinek's 5 practices. It all starts with having a just cause. That's your why, the reason you exist beyond making a profit. That cause makes it possible to build trusting teams where people feel safe to take risks and be innovative. Then you start to see your competitors not as enemies, but as worthy rivals, people who actually make you better.
That takes existential flexibility, which is the ability to totally change course if it helps you advance your cause. And what holds it all together? The courage to lead, making the tough, long-term choice even when it hurts in the short term. Now, that just cause is really the bedrock for everything else. And we're not talking about a corporate mission statement here, the kind about maximizing shareholder value. A just cause is this big, optimistic vision of the future. It's what gives the work meaning, and it's what inspires people to pour their hearts into it. And sometimes, that inspiration can lead to almost unbelievable sacrifice. During the siege of Leningrad in World War II, a group of scientists were guarding the world's largest collection of seeds. The city was starving, and they were literally surrounded by tons of edible food, potatoes, rice, seeds. And yet 9 of them starved to death, right there, refusing to eat any of it. Why? Because they had a just cause. They were protecting the future of food for all of humanity. Their cause was bigger than their own survival. That's a just cause.
All right, section 3, the payoff. Because in the end, this choice to lead with a finite or an infinite mindset has huge and very different consequences. It's really the difference between a culture that breaks down and a culture that lasts. And you can see this choice so clearly in these 2 examples. Take Wells Fargo. The intense pressure to hit short-term finite sales goals created what Sinek calls ethical fading. And you know the story. Employees opened millions of fake accounts. Now, contrast that with CVS. Back in 2014, they decided to stop selling all tobacco products. This was a move that was going to cost them $2 billion a year in revenue. And no one was forcing them to do it. They did it because selling cigarettes just didn't align with their just cause, helping people on our path to better health.
So, what happened? Well, the finite-minded folks on Wall Street predicted it would be a disaster. But the actual results were incredible. In states where CVS was a big player, overall cigarette sales actually dropped. 95 million fewer packs of cigarettes were sold in just 8 months. And at the same time, the company started building new partnerships with health brands that had refused to work with them before. Their courageous, infinite-minded choice actually created new value for them and for society.
And really, that's what this is all about. This isn't just some clever strategy for your business. It's a choice about how you want to lead and really how you want to live. We can choose to see our careers and our lives as just a series of finite games that we're trying to win, get the promotion, have a bigger house than the neighbors, or we can choose to play an infinite game where our goal is to advance something bigger than ourselves.
So Sinek leaves all of us with this really powerful personal question. Because in business, in our jobs, and in our lives, the players are always changing. The only thing that really lasts is the game itself. The real goal is to leave it in better shape than we found it. So you have to ask yourself, what game are you playing?